Okay, I want everyone to, right hand, put up 4 fingers. Extend your left elbow and go like this across. So this part of your hand is on the medial epicondyle and you're coming across. Good. So we're doing this go ahead and do that too. Superficial layer of the anterior part of the forearm. Superficial. And the acronym is pass, fail, pass, fail. Pass, fail, pass, fail. This is how you will remember this. So the pass, the pointer finger, is the pronator teres. And this is the orientation of what the muscles are. The second is fail. So it's flexor carpi radialis, palmaris longus, and flexor carpi ulnaris. With your middle finger and thumb, put it together and go like this. Do you see a tendon pop up? Mostly everybody does. There's a small population where you won't. That is your palmaris longus tendon. So that's your third pass, fail, pass, fail. So that's the pass. And then the flexor carpi radialis goes, so all of these 4 start at the medial epicondyle. The flexor carpi radialis goes, passes the carpals into the hand, and it helps with wrist flexion and radial deviation because of the location of it. And the flexor carpi ulnaris goes into the hand along the ulna, helps with flexion and ulnar deviation. So all of these help with wrist flexion, except for pronator teres because it doesn't pass the wrist. So those 3 help with wrist flexion. If a muscular tendon passes a joint, it acts upon that joint. If it passes at the front of the wrist, chances are it's going to help flex the wrist when contracted. If it passes behind the wrist, chances are it's going to extend the wrist if the tendon passes it. So, model, we have pass, fail, and your arm out. I'll bring up the diagram here, the model, I should say. This is our pass, pronator teres. This is our flexor carpi radialis. This is our palmaris longus, and then our flexor carpi ulnaris. So it's generally from the medial epicondyle, starting here, branching out, and this is what it looks like. It really helps to look at things in relation to one another. So there's 4 superficial muscles you'll have to palpate on the model and on your person. The deep muscles, you don't have to palpate, but you do have to label them. So we won't go over those right now. And then the posterior, the superficial on the posterior side, perfect. We'll do your right, your left. The brachioradialis is a big one to, there we go. Brachioradialis, this is one that if you extend so actually just like this, if you try to resist flexion, and you see one popping up here, this is your brachioradialis. So let's see here, got a nice resist flexion, nice brachioradialis right here. It's kind of like the hood of the extensor. So yeah, leave your arm like that, it'd be great. So that's the brachioradialis. Then we have extensor carpi radialis longus and brevis right next to it. So if we're looking at the model, the longest comes right lateral to the brachioradialis, and then we have the extensor carpi radialis brevis. So these start at the lateral epicondyle. They come down, pass through the hand. The brevis goes to the middle finger, and the longest goes to this index finger. A way that people commonly will remember is that, okay, these mostly, if they pass the wrist behind, they help with wrist extension. Wonderful. But because there's a longus and a brevis, they're different because they go to different fingers. When you flip someone the bird, is you put up your middle finger. The middle finger, so bird starts with B and brevis starts with B. So that's a good way to know that the brevis goes into the middle finger and the longest goes into this finger. Why does that matter? Tennis elbow is an example. Yeah, I love it. Tennis elbow is an example. Sometimes with if you've heard about that before, it's a tendinopathy of the ECRV or ECRL, which is what their acronyms are. It can be one or the other. And so usually what I might do is, okay, push up against my hand here, push up against my hand here, and depending on which muscle, tendon, or tendinoperiosteal junction is affected, it'll be more painful one versus the other. So that's kind of cool because then you know which one to treat. So brachioradialis is the meaty guy on top. You can resist elbow flexion. We know it's biased in elbow flexion if your thumb is in the upwards direction. Then just lateral to that, from the lateral epicondyle, is the extensor carpi radialis longus, or ECRL, and then extensor carpi radialis brevis. Next to that is the extensor digitorum. It's not marked on your sheets to palpate, but essentially that one is just next and goes into all of the fingers and helps to extend the fingers and extend the wrist. If it crosses the wrist at the back, it helps wrist extension. If it goes into the fingers, it extends the wrist. We can stop the video.